Today's consciousness, today's consciousness, today's consciousness. What happened and how can we change it? From the pristine position that we held in today's consciousness, here's a new show just for you every Tuesday called Today's Consciousness. Be there and enjoy all the great special guest stars that will be passing through on a new show called Today's Consciousness. Today's Consciousness. Today's Consciousness. Are you ready to address all the things that are going on? And how can we heal today's consciousness? Today's consciousness. Today's consciousness. Right here on KSP TV. Today's consciousness. What happened and how can we change it? Content disclaimer. The views, comments, and opinions expressed by guest speakers or authors on this YouTube channel do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by this channel's broadcasters and its sponsors. Parental guidance is advised. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teachers, scholarship, education, and research. For fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringed. Esoteric and metaphysical disclaimer. The information provided on this channel about the esoteric and metaphysical sciences like numerology, numerovation, astrology, and others is for guidance, edutainment, and reference only. It is based on probability, statistics, patterns, cycles, sequences, alternative spiritual and physical practices. It is not meant to be a substitute for professional, mental, and medical advice. Please always listen to your intuition and use these modalities in a way that feels most supportive for you. Okay, family. Okay. We got a great show for you coming up in the next 2 minutes. We got our beloved brother, Lloyd Strayhorn, that will be on right here on King Simon Presents Only Quality People. You know how we do it. You know how we get down. I just want to remind everybody, every Tuesday I do a thing called Today's Consciousness in the Conscious Community. And of course, this is no different. We're gonna be focusing not on numbers, not on any breakdown of anybody's birthday. So please do not come up here trying to get all of that. We're going to focus on the history of the conscious community from the tree of life all the way till now. What Lloyd can share with us from back in the day. And I want to remind everybody that one of my dear sponsors is Abundance Child. Big up to Abundance Child with her radio show, WJVSradio.com. Make sure you support Abundance Child because she spreads love on multiple ways. And also another one of our sponsors, Lloyd Strayhorn, Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. Make sure you call his number. I always share this with y'all. I'm always going to big up my Baba man, one of my brothers, my older brothers who've been doing this for years before I was even doing it. World-renowned Astro-Numerologist, Lloyd Strayhorn. Make sure you support him. My son has a great studio in New York City. If you want to record your audio books, if you want to record do any artist development, podcasting, event productions, all of that, my son, Prince Imagine, does his work. The numbers are on here. You could also leave a voicemail at one of his other numbers. And also want to remind all you beautiful people that in New York City, we will be at the place called, matter of fact, on the 21st. Another one of my sponsors, Powerful Pioneers. Big them up all the time because the Powerful Pioneers got this beautiful sister coming in, returning after so many years. After Dr. Africa transitioned in 2020, the sister is finally coming out, and I understand she's going to be at this beautiful place called the Cosmo Temple right across the street from Medgar Evers on June the 21st. And it's an all-day conference, an all-day health and wealth conference. She is the featured speaker, so I don't know what time she's going to come in, but it starts at 11 and end at 8 p.m. So I'm honored to have that beautiful sister coming in, and remind everybody that I will be at the place called LIU. LIU, I'm going to be with Black Dot, Tafiro Azar, Adika Butler, myself, and Baba Ifa Kunle, of course, the Babalao of Harlem. It's called Writer's Block, and it's brought to you by Eye Opener Productions, Sunday, June the 22nd, which happens to be my grandmama's birthday, at 1 p.m. And opening up for me in my segment will be Paris Williams. Big up to Paris Williams. She is now a part of the authorship world, so I wanted a feminine energy to get in, and let's do what we got to do. Also, please join me on Patreon. I already got the first installment on patreon.com/King Simon Productions. The second installment is going up in July, and it's called Your Name is Your Theme Song. It is the instrument you are playing in the orchestra of life. So we're going to be speaking about that on my Patreon. It will be pre-recorded, then uploaded. Of course, you can get all my books on Amazon. Of course, all my books are available on Amazon. Also, my Udemy course is also available on udemy.com. Rates usually range from $9.99 and up to $84.99. So make sure you go to udemy.com and put in the words or put in the name Holistic Numerovation. Also, Lloyd Strayhorn's workshop and Udemy courses on there. He got numerous Udemy courses up there. And if you do want to book a session with me, please text me your full name and date of birth to 347-496-1022. That's 347-496-1022 for the month of June only. Melanin Music Month or Black Music Month or Mental Health Month, Mental Health Month. I have $80 off for my 30-minute session and $50 off from my 60-minute session. So please text me your full name and date of birth. So the brother that I'm about to bring is now 2 minutes after the hour right here on the East Coast, 2 minutes after the hour all over the world. The brother that I'm about to welcome on, family, really needs no introduction, but the brother has been doing it for a long time, man. And his books are famous. So make sure you go to his website and also download his app called A Star 8. Please download that app. He also does palm reading, very historic, very well read, of course. And I would never put that past a number 16. They'll always be well read. So one thing I want to welcome on the stage without all the hoopla, but first time at least to my today's consciousness in the conscious community. We've had Phil Valentine, we've had Brother Shabazz, we've had people like Infodisha to come up. Let's welcome on our platform right here on today's consciousness, the one, the only Lloyd Strayhorn. Brother Lloyd, how are you, my brother?
Hey, Simon, how are you?
I know. Everything is well, my brother. How you feeling today?
Very good. It is good to join you, minus.
Exactly. It's always good. No, don't worry. I'm gonna line it up right here. We're gonna keep it lined up.
Yeah,
right
I was lined up ahead and everything.
It's all right.
How
I know.
you doing,
I want to make sure. All your stuff is on the Cash App. Is $ numbers and you. PayPal. You go to Lloyd Strayhorn at msn.com. Right. That's the PayPal account. Correct.
$ numbers in you.
I got numbers. What about the PayPal account?
Lloyd Strayhorn 7 at Gmail.
Okay, so let me change that. So that's new. I know it used to be MSN, but now you got Lloyd Strayhorn at what?
Lloyd Strayhorn number 7 at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Let me make sure we correct that, of course, before we start our program. Gmail.com. Got that. Of course, you got Linktree. Let's put that up. Linktree / numbers and you. And
thanks
of course,
you.
You're welcome, sir. And Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. And of course, 800-581-4401 is the number. Of course, I always advertise you on every program that I do because I love what you've been doing for so many years. You've helped me, you've helped the family, you've helped a lot of people around the world. Thousands and thousands, maybe millions. Well, Lloyd, welcome to today's consciousness in the conscious community. Let me Let me make sure people like, subscribe, and share, and remind people to do that because this is very important. Let me scroll that on the bottom so people can remember to keep on doing that just in case. Like, subscribe, share with family members and friends that are on a spiritual journey if you can. Or you could also like, subscribe, and please do the notification bell. Please notify so you can be notified when I come up, and even do it on Lloyd's platform, Numbers and You. Please do it on Lloyd's because it builds the algorithms. Even put those hearts. The hearts are very important too. That helps to alert people that people are loving what we do. So the hearts are very important. That's what I'm finding out every day. So Lloyd, today's consciousness in the conscious community, a lot has happened since you even got into consciousness from back in the early, from back in the 70s to the 80s to the 90s. You've been in it. A lot of people, you are one of the elders in it. Like I had Phil Valentine to start it off back in the day. You and him and people like Queen of Four, one of the elders in it. Take me back, my brother, and take us back. When did you get into consciousness and metaphysics at the same time?
Well, ever since I was a youngster, I was always interested in astrology. That's because I was shy in school talking to the girls. Okay.
Yes.
And it seemed like the brothers always had a better rap than me. Okay. So what happens is I came across this thing known as astrology. And then, of course, I would study everything I could about my sign and this, that, and the other. And then in the summer of one year, I was in Atlantic City, and this sister told me about numerology. And I says, what? That was the first time I was ever introduced to it. And that led me on my journey. And then one day I went to see this. There was a baseball player, and he was into numerology. And he gave this lecture on 125th Street, right off Lenox Avenue.
Right.
And that's when I really started getting into it. So it was then in the very late 60s into the 70s and beyond that I got into it.
Now, hold on. Before we step in, was there anyone in your family that had an inkling of any type of spiritual, any type of conjuring, any type of voodoo, or any type of astrology or numerology, other than yourself? Who was anybody else?
Not that I know of, to be very honest with you.
Okay.
It's interesting. My parents coming from the South, had practically a very minimum amount of education, so they made sure that me, my brother, and sister went to school. So when we did graduate from college, and I told my dad I wanted to be a numerologist, he thought I said a neurologist, which is the study of the nerves. Okay.
Much more money.
So for all of those who live the Black experience, we always have the first Black doctor in the family, the first Black lawyer in the family, some professional type of thing. And then about maybe a couple of weeks later, my dad said, what was that again? And I said, I want to be a numerologist. And his question is raising me and my brother and sister, well, how do you feed a family? How do you make money? I had no idea. I just knew I found something that I really, really enjoyed, really, really curious about. And little did I know, within my imagination, I went on to write 6 books and have classes and students all over the world. It's just been a wonderful experience.
Right.
Wonderful experience.
So in those days, how relevant was people getting, not relevant, how many people were getting into consciousness that you know from the metaphysical level, but also the historical level? Do you remember what you recall in Harlem, what was going on?
Well, yes, not consciousness in the sense of we know now conscious community now.
Right.
Because I came out of the period where it was very much into the church.
Right.
Okay. Don't forget, we was in the 60s and, there was the sit-ins, the demonstrations, all that stuff. So everybody was all based out of the church, from Reverend King's Church in New York to the Nation of Islam Temple in New York on 116th Street. So everybody kind of came out of that. And in fact, people who were into the metaphysics of astrology, etc., they would walk around with their books in a brown paper wrap. Nowadays, I could pick up an astrology book or numerology book or whatever, and I can carry it on the train. Nobody would be disturbed.
Right.
One of the people who was, believe it or not, was Tony Brown of Tony Brown's Journal. He was very much into astrology too. He was born on April the 11th.
Right. Wow.
And, so one day,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Born on April 11th. And you know who else is born on April 11th? The Silva, the guy who wrote the Silva book, The Mind Method.
Yeah, Jose Silva. He was born on August the 11th.
August 11th. Right. August. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
same day as Alex Haley. Alex Haley was born
August. So Tony Brown is April 11th, and he's okay. Great. I know the 11 was there.
And Elijah Muhammad is born on. Minister Louis Farrakhan is born on May the 11th.
May 11th, yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's so interesting. All these visionary people,
and that they would go down the spiritual route. Also, Tony Brown going down the astrological route, which is a form of spirituality, and also, Jose de Silva going down that spiritual route. That 11, I think that's very important and very key for people. And even Minister Farrakhan dealing with certain things from a spiritual perspective. He respected numerology also. The study of mathematics. Yeah.
Well, he was the one that told me on the corner of 116th Street and Lenox Avenue when there was a famous bookstore there called now Booking Things.
Yes.
With Brother Lloyd and Brother Larry. Those were the ones who managed the bookstore.
Right.
He told me that what I did at that time was supreme mathematics. That was the first time I heard it phrased that way.
Wow. Coming from the lessons of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Yeah, that's called supreme mathematics. Yes. So
what? Go ahead.
No. What you was going to say? Finish your thought.
No. So what happens is, I began to do a lot of self-study because I had no mentors at the time. Right. There were very few. Most of the people, almost without exceptions, was all into astrology, but very few, practically none of them, was into numerology. That was the new kid on the block, yet numerology is older than astrology.
Right.
And there was this store that came up. It was called the Tree of Life bookstore.
Tree of Life, yes.
Yeah. And it was on the corner of Lenox Avenue, and to the far end on 7th Avenue and 125th Street was Oscar Michaud's bookstore. And Oscar Michaud, and in fact, it was his brother that made the black films at that time during the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Okay. Wow. And it was on that corner where Malcolm X spoke, our brother Kenyatta spoke, all the brothers who would influence the community spoke on that particular corner. Or on the other corner, which is the Tree of Life, it was founded by two gentlemen. Right. One was Dr. Kanya Kakumba. He was born on September the 17th. And then Dr. Moore, Dr. John Moore,
John E. Moore, yes.
He was born December the 26th. So they were both earth signs with 8s.
Wow.
So when the Tree of Life bookstore opened, I had been self-studying for about 6 or 7 years. And then with my shy self, I walked in there and I asked him, can I was studying numerology. Can I, teach here or give readings here? And without question, he said, yeah, sure.
Wow.
And that changed it. He didn't take me through no changes. How many years he'd been studying, references and stuff like that. He just embraced me. And out of that Tree of Life came John Harris, who was very important. Yes. Brother Youssef, Brother Butler, he had taught palmistry. Queen Afua came out of the Tree of Life. Rebels Bay came out of the Tree of Life because Rebels Bay and I met on December the 7th of 1978. And by that time, I had been teaching a couple of years. And I was teaching medium, intermediate, and advanced numerology. And I told him, why don't he start teaching beginner's numerology? And that relationship lasted all these nearly 50 years.
And let's go back, because the Tree of Life was a hub for consciousness at that time,
without question.
And there was a lot of the greats that passed through there. Can you share with us some of the greats, and how was the attitude of brothers doing what they was doing and sisters doing what they was doing at that time? And were they heavily supported for each other? Please.
Very much so, because don't forget, we had just come out of the 60s.
Yes, right.
So there was still this whole sense of unity, but now there was a metaphysical unity, okay? And which is why I think all of us developed very long-term relationships out of that store. and they used to, you know how in California there's the UCLA
Right.
University, right?
Right.
Well, the Tree of Life bookstore was known as UCLA too. It was called on the corner of Lenox Avenue. Okay.
On the cover. Oh, that's USC.
Yeah,
On the corner.
UCLA, yeah, on the corner of Lenox Avenue. And what happens is I remember the Earth, Wind, and Fire was at the height of their fame, going around, and some person who was visiting there, they would always come there a lot to visit and buy books and whatnot.
Right.
And they wrote to Earth, Wind, and Fire, somebody, I don't know if it was Maurice White or Philip Bailey or one of them, about how can I learn something. They said, you need to go to Tree of Life bookstore. And on that, so it was about a good 7, 8 years. It was there, and then now they put a parking lot there. They put there's a drugstore on that corner, but that used to be the place to go if you wanted to have metaphysical lot of understanding. The beautiful part about the Tree of Life bookstore, that if you wanted to, shall we say, liberate a book, okay,
right,
he had no problems.
Really?
He was so intent with getting the word out there.
So he didn't mind if people took books from the place and didn't return it or brought it back or whatever.
I was one of them.
Really?
I think somewhere in my old collection of books, I still got some stamped Tree of Life bookstore with pride too.
You know, and there was also celebrities that passed through there too, right?
All kinds of celebrities. You would name it. It all seemed as if that was the place to go. Because see, Harlem has always been the center of not only the Black community, but the Black nation anyway.
Right.
And so if you were coming out of Harlem and then you were part of that conscious kind of, and it was a whole different conscious community in the way they talk about conscious community now. It was, everybody was like really in a sense of doing things. And Dr. Moore would take people on field trips around Harlem.
Yes.
And these trees and bushes and whatnot. He would tell you all the plants and stuff. And then there was Ben Armstead and Gail Armstead.
Yes.
And there were a lot of people. But I have to give credit to John Harris, which is where I got this thing about telling people, like when I met you.
Right.
Like, Simon, you got to write a book.
Yes, you always do that. That's right.
And John Harris would kind of, I would be there doing a lecture or stuff. He says, when you going to do that book, brother? And I looked at him because that was the furthest thing from my mind. And little did I know that eventually I would write. So anytime I think of John Harris, born September the 4th, I always think of him with affection because he was the one that encouraged me to write the book. And that was my first book that I wrote in 1980. It came out in September of 1980, 45 years ago this September.
Now, you know, I know we didn't have social media. Our social media, especially your time, because I was around, you know, I was born 67. But there was a lot, you know, social media was word of mouth back in the day.
That's how it went. Yep.
Call, or you might see a flyer, somebody tell you on the street, whatever was going on. Word of mouth was different back in those days. And you know, I recall my father used to throw parties, and it was word of mouth through the nurses because he was a paramedic. He used to throw parties at the house in the basement and all that. He had a whole lounge the year I was born, but he also loved to enjoy. So I noticed that there was a word of mouth thing going on back in those days, just because. And you know, my father also being up there in a certain amount of cycles of life, you know, compared to the transition over the years, what was some of the things that you found different about the consciousness of people? Because y'all had the UAM sometimes at certain points of your life. Y'all had the Dempsey Theater at a certain time. You had Tree of Life. You had a lot.
We had the Slave Theater in Brooklyn.
Had the Slave Theater in Brooklyn.
It was a whole lot of things.
Automatic. What was some of the things that you've noticed even there? Because what I noticed, from my personal opinion, there was a lot of different people coming together from different organizations, instead of debating and arguing with each other. What did you notice back in there, and the camaraderie that you seen back in?
Well, that was pretty much the same, because don't forget, it was Black and I'm Proud. You know what I'm saying? It was that whole sense of unity, especially just coming out of the 60s, you know, and with Dr. Martin. See, because in the 60s, Malcolm X was assassinated, Martin Luther King was assassinated, Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. So All
Right.
these things kind of led to a whole lot of things. Maurice Bishop, Patrice
Right.
Lumumba,
Yeah.
all of them. So it just kind of raised a whole consciousness. And don't forget, we had just went through this whole demonstration of sit-ins and lay-ins and whatever, all those kind of things, and being hosed and whatever. So the unity was different. It wasn't the unity now about the modern technology of the
Right.
internet and whatnot. But in Black communities, there was always what we call the drum. What do I mean?
Right.
Well, there was a gentleman named Caspar Holstein, born on December the 7th, that came from the Caribbean, that
Right.
established the numbers in Harlem.
Yes.
Okay. And so what happens is he would the timing of the number would come out based upon the racetrack out in, I think, the Aqueduct racetrack.
Right.
And so when a number came out, like number 1, within 5 minutes, it had gone, because at that time, Harlem per se strictly was from 110th Street to 155th Street. Within 5 minutes, whatever the first number came out, by 5 minutes later, everybody knew what the same number was uptown. It's the spread of word.
Wow.
This whole thing, this whole internet, this whole Facebook, all of this really was started by brothers in the community, just spreading by word of mouth. That's why we knew about the parties. You know what I'm saying? There was, okay, let me hit you up on the computer, or let me hit you up on the cell phones, or whatever the case is. All of this was by that. And I remember in the late 80s, early 90s, they started coming out with the, what they call those beepers.
Yes.
Okay, so it was one time that if you had a beep, everybody thought you was a drug dealer.
Yes, exactly.
You had to get that stereotype out the way.
Yep.
So I went through all those stages, man. You know what I'm saying?
And each stage, I have to say, Lloyd, that you was there around even when, while I was even in the nation and all that kind of stuff. You've been there because, again, I left certain communities, the Ansar of Love. I was in the 5%, each one of them, Father Allah, he born February 22nd, Dr. York born June 26th. I went to the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, October 7th, Minister Farrakhan, May the 11th, and Dr. Khalid, January the 12th. Different people passed through our life at different intervals of time, man. And, consciousness, like you said, was a lot of religious base.
Yes, it was.
Religious base.
Even the founder of the founder of the Nation of Islam, the 5%ers, he was actually in the Nation of Islam at one time. But he was born on the 22nd of the month.
Yes, he was born on the 22nd. Yes, that's right. That's the name, Clarence X. That's what I call him. He was born February 22nd. Yes, I remember. Same day as Dr. J. Dr. J born the same.
Exactly.
So, and plus you was coming from it from another, because remember, we was transforming from Black Power, sexual revolution. You got to remember the sexual, because that's where Black exploitation and all of that was coming out. You was in the mix of a lot of this stuff going on.
And they had Black exploitation movies.
Yes.
They was projecting Pam Grier, that I had the pleasure of meeting. It was just amazing experience. So
and I'm surprised you ain't write a book about your life, because you was also in the entertainment. You was doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
You were doing a whole lot.
Low key, Simon. I've always been low key.
I know you low key, but we ain't gonna go that deep. But I just want to make sure we stay right there. Right where we at. But
when I met you, I had some adventures, but that's
you've been had adventures before me, bro. But looking at those times and what we are engaging in now, what are some of the things? Because today's consciousness is about what happened, how can we change? What happened? How can we change it, or how can we heal it? Because there's a lot of contention going on, especially since a lot of people have been doing a lot of different things. And I don't not to say that you even know what's going on too much in the conscious community like that, because you basically kept your head down low and did what you had to do in this business. And I respect that, because there was really never no scandals around you, Lloyd. You know,
Yeah.
and you know, thank the creator for that, man. There was no
Yep,
scandal
yep.
about you. You've always been a reputable elder in our community, or a reputable brother. And I love what the couple yesterday said with Sunshine and Chris, how they, you know, how he met you at Queen of Fours thing, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and then they decided to get a session with you. That touched my heart, because I was watching. I was like, man, that's the truth. You know, I remember you was there at a few. You've been with Queen of Fours for so. Yeah, that's your.
And they having another one in August in New York City.
Yeah, more than likely, I'm gonna try to come back for that. Are you gonna be there?
I'm gonna try to be there if I can too.
Yeah, because I'm coming this week. I'm coming this week for this weekend stuff. So, but you know, when it comes to consciousness now, Lloyd, what do you feel from back in those days that's needed now, and what could they have used back in those days that they're using now, from your perspective, if you understand what I'm saying?
I think so, Simon. Well, to me at this point, when I came into the consciousness that I knew then in those 70s, is totally different now than what is projected in the late 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. There was more of a sense of purpose and order, more of a sense of sticking together. We all knew each other, and we were all reputable. Every single one of these persons I mentioned would have made the history books. Dr. Donald Thomas also came out of the Tree of Life bookstore, who set 3 Guinness records. I mean, so we all had this thing. It wasn't like, well, I don't like him, and you know, I'm jealous of Simon, and we wasn't into none of that. We all seemed to just had a focus. It was Black awareness, Black power, Black consciousness, and then there was this thing on from the, I guess, the law enforcement, the CIA, Black COINTEL.
The COINTELPRO, right?
Yeah. Right. And then when I started at WLIB in 81, Brother Sonny Carson, who was born on May 22nd, he came to the radio station, says they're about to introduce a drug. And he said that drug was called crack. The first time I heard the word crack was out of Sonny Carson's mouth.
Wow.
So you know, Sonny Carson went on to write a book. They made a movie about him, about him and stuff like that.
You know, you know, hold on one second. That mention of crack, and you was there in that area in Harlem back in those days, and throughout still doing your classes. How did crack devastate the consciousness of our people?
Well, it took away the ethics. It took away the morals.
Right.
For example, because of my being in the streets, I knew all kinds of people. You know, when we know saints and sinners. Okay.
Exactly.
So
that's the truth.
There was one guy that had a crack den that I knew, and he said that one of the mothers would actually leave her child there.
Wow.
And see, me, I'm looking at it this way. In any phase of the animal kingdom, whether it's a rabbit, whether it's a bird or whatever, any mother will fight to the death to defend her offspring. It's almost they understand the importance of the extension of life.
That's right.
And I says that anytime you got something that will make you separate your child from you, a father may be one thing, a mother, that's hard. So when my kids were very small, I said, would you buy a TV with a crack in it? No, Daddy. Would you buy something with a crack in it? And notice with all the words that they would use in crack, other words they call, none of it was dope. Okay, you need some dope. Okay, so you got to be a dope. And they gave words that really spoke what it was. And I remember when crack came out, the thing used to be with women, girl, you want to lose the weight real fast? You should get on that. Not understanding the devastation it would do to our women, and the younger women would seduce the much older men and the elders in the community. A lot of them got strung out on crack. And I understand from a person would climb a pole with grease on it to get to some crack. It was at the top of the pole. I mean, anytime, to me, the way I was thinking, because when I grew up as kids, the bigger guys told us, Don't you mess with no drugs.
Right,
Don't
right,
you do
right.
this. Don't, you know, they told us this generation don't care. It's almost like, well, yeah, we'll pass it on to the younger people. So we did not do the best that we could have done. But I think all that was part of the programming too.
Now, you know, before crack, you know, a lot of the heroin and cocaine and all
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
coming from, doing, of course, people coming back from Vietnam. What was the
yeah.
consciousness back in those days during that time on the streets when they was coming back from Vietnam? You remember? Do you recall that?
Yes, a lot of first of all, many brothers that I knew personally didn't come back the same. And I never went into the service, but I knew Joe and a couple of other people that did, but they were not quite the same. I
Right,
don't know whether it be in the fields of Vietnam, fighting the war in Vietnam, or whatever the case is.
right,
I know they just didn't come back, and a lot of them came back also very strung out on drugs too, and that
right.
was the thing. So, drugs, if anything, drugs, whether it was dope, whether it was heroin, whether it was this, that, and the other, crack, it never did our communities any good at all. And in fact, I would think that would be one of the factors that really started to put a wedge between the men and women and family in the community.
Those that are just tuning in, we are here with our brother, our guest, Lloyd Strayhorn. His cash app is $numbers and you. Of course, PayPal, Lloyd Strayhorn7 at Gmail. His link tree is linktree/numbers and you. And of course, his website is Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. And his 1-800 number if you want to book a session with him or call him or whatever, 800-581-4401. That's 800-581-4401. Let me put it in the chat so I can share it with y'all. So if you want to connect with him, get his books. If you got a store or book or storefront and you want to order his book in bulk and all that, he can help you with that also, just in case, and guide you the way you got to go to get those books. Let me put it in the chat right now so y'all can see it. Big up to Color Curiosity, one of my moderators. Big up to Abundance Child in the building also. She's up in
All
here.
right, that's my girl.
Holly in the building. Yeah, Abundance Child from out of Detroit, not Detroit, Delaware is in the building. Drop Squad Kitchen. Remember, keep on supporting our sister. I always advertise. I'm one of her sponsors for her program. You know, man, it is now 32 minutes after. You know, Lloyd, since I've been in this consciousness from a young age, it has been a roller coaster ride, so to speak. It's been a roller coaster ride because, you know, coming out of the 5% nation at the age of 14, then going into the Ansar Law community with Imam Isa, now known as Dr. York, and then going into the nation after that. And it was coming out of that community, coming into listening to radio with Gary Bird. How was the consciousness on radio affecting people at that time? Because y'all was in the Apollo, then you had Bob Law over there, Night Talk over there, Nightline over there, WWRL, black owned, operated. How was the consciousness then, and how was they receiving you while you was on radio when you started displaying that, you and Gary and all the rest of it?
Well, you know, that's interesting because again, during the 60s and after the 60s was the 70s.
Yes.
By that time, during the 70s, that's when you had more black and proud, more consciousness, more things of that nature. Mm-hmm. So when WBLS, it started actually with WLIB and with the Honorable Percy E. Sutton and Hal Jackson.
Hal Jackson, that's right.
Yes, and it was Hal Jackson that talked Percy Sutton to then, who was the borough president of Manhattan at that time, to therefore purchase the FM side. And who should they bring in then was Frankie Crocker,
who was on WWRL.
Yes.
And then came over.
Yes. And he changed the whole flavor of New York City.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
You know, and I admired him because he wouldn't allow liquor ads to come on there. Cigarette ads. Any advertisement that he thought that was coming across the WBLS airways that was demeaning to Black people and what we were, he squashed it. And he talked about it too. He had no shame in his game born December 18th. Okay?
Yes, yeah, that was one of my teachers.
Yeah, so I mean, so he did a lot. And actually as far as I'm concerned, it was Frankie Crocker and WBLS radio that popularized FM radio across New York City. And you know, when anything starts in New York, it just spreads around the country.
Yes, he was so innovative that when I was young and we used to have real good speakers, that WBLS bouncing from one speaker to the next speaker in your car, in your house. If you had a good stereo system, oh, you on here, you go like, how he did that?
Yeah, and if he says if he wasn't on, you wasn't on radio. That's all.
If Frankie Crocker ain't on your radio just
and
ain't
that
on.
was when they were into personalities. And what happens is WBLS and WLIB did one thing very unique.
Right.
They formed an alliance with the Apollo Theater.
Yes, they did.
And Monday through Thursday, they took that radio station to the Apollo stage. So when I tell people I was on the Apollo stage 4 days a week, all year long for about 2.5 years, and everybody could just sit in, walk into the Apollo Theater, have a seat, and watch the show live.
And you know what's so funny? Because you got to remember the consciousness of those men back in those days, Percy Sutton and Mr. Cooper. They were friends.
Yes.
They were friends.
Yes, Ralph
Apollo
Cooper.
Theater, Ralph Cooper. They were friends. So they was about controlling Harlem and making sure it's popping. And they had certain lawyer. They was connected to Adam Clayton Powell. They knew all of these guys. You know, Dinkins, all of them, Rangel, Owens, all of them was friends. And they was just, I forgot they called them the Harlem Six back in the day, I believe.
It was actually the Harlem Four, which was Rangel.
Harlem Four, right?
Yeah, Rangel. It was Percy Sutton. It was David Dinkins, and it was Senator Patterson. It was David Patterson's son. I forgot his first name, but he wound up being the Secretary of State. His son, David Patterson, that I read, was the first and only African-American governor of New York City.
That's right. Yeah, the blind one, right? The brother that was blind.
Yes, born May 20th.
Impaired, right? Vision impaired. And you know what's so funny? When you have conscious program directors and owners, like Sid Smalls owned WWRL at that time. Aquarius, like us, he was born February 18th. So I used to work there, so I knew that back in the day. So and you know,
Bob Law was the equivalent to Frankie Crocker.
They was friends from back in the day and all that. Eddie OJ was on WWRL and Hank Spann and Alma John and
Higginson. And Alma John wrote. To this day, I have a Xerox copy of this letter that Alma John wrote me when I first started on WLIB.
Wow.
And what happens is there was a gentleman named Felipe Luciano.
Of course, our brother.
Yes. And
from the Latin Kings. Don't forget, he's from the Latin Kings.
Yes, sir. And then I was introduced. I appeared as a guest on the radio station at that time as a guest. And it was Pablo Guzman. He was on WBLS, WLIB, and he would be at the Harlem street festivals and whatnot. So I asked him one day, could I come on? And I remember coming on his show, and I read so many people, even his mother called in. And she said on the show, Pablo, you should take him and see if he can get a show. That man listened to his mother.
That's right.
Took me to see Mark Riley, who was the program director. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, they called me and asked me that I want a radio show. And I said, oh, yeah.
Somebody asked if Bob Law wrote The Crown, We Are the Crown. No, that was Gary Bird.
Gary Bird.
Bob Law. Bob Law was on, but that was Imhotep was always a rapper, man. He was always getting
that was the thing. That's how he started.
And he was there at WWRL also, and then went over to BLS-LIB. So, and again, going back up, family, this is a conscious history of today's consciousness. And why I'm interviewing Lloyd, because back in the day, there was so much supportive vibration from the program directors to the radio hosts to everybody was conscious in their own way. And whether you was part of the Nation of Islam, whether you was Hebrew Israelites, whether you was Christian, whether you was Masons, whatever you was, we was working together
collectively,
because that's what Kwanzaa was all about too. But we was practicing Kwanzaa before Kwanzaa even came into existence. Of these brothers, these elders back in the day. That's why it was so important to bring Lloyd on because he's one of the Mohicans, last of the Mohicans that I can talk to right now. That was on radio. And if you can contact Gary Bird, please get me his number. I'm gonna have to call Fatim also and find out.
I'll give you his number. I'll give you his number after the show.
I would love Gary Bird, Imhotep Gary Bird, who even changed his name to Imhotep because of the
and that's how he's known.
Yes.
Everybody calls him Imhotep.
Imhotep Gary Bird, because of the influence of Kemet and Dr. Ben and all the great ones that was doing the work to get this consciousness across. You know,
and don't forget, at that time, there was in the Harlem community, John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben Yekinen, then Dr. Leonard Jeffries, you know, all these cats, all these historians with whatnot, with this certain consciousness running through and living in the Harlem community. That was privileged to meet all of them.
Yes.
And so it's just one of those, and they all made the history books. They all made the history books at some point in terms of what they did in the terms of consciousness. So, and it seemed that all of that was dismantled, whether strategically, but everything changed. And I think once the 70s, once the unity out of the 60s came effect, then it was almost as if there was a grand design to maybe dismantle everything. So instead of having a sense of unity, we all think separately, like we don't need nobody. And brother, we need and the way things are going down in this community, this is why I call my show the Live with Lloyd Family.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, somebody just asked a question. Do you think any other places in the United States could have served as a foundation for conscious community outside of Harlem? Of course, Oakland had their own consciousness.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oakland.
Everybody had their consciousness. Yeah. Because that's where Maulana Karenga came from, out of Cali. Y'all keep on forgetting the one who started Kwanzaa. You know, a lot of the Black Panthers was out of Oakland and those type of places. So I just have to get people that,
But Harlem, I think the heart of everything started in Harlem, though.
Yeah, well, East Coast. Well, East Coast had their stuff, and West Coast. It's just that I'm gonna have to call some of my friends like Dwan.
Well, a lot of them have been inspired as to what was going on in Harlem, especially during the 60s, because Martin Luther King was to the south, but Malcolm X was to the north.
To the north,
in that 60s.
That's
see
right.
what I'm saying? And between those two gentlemen, and you know the irony is that Malcolm X's father and Martin Luther King's father had one thing in common. Do you know what that was?
What, the same name?
No, Martin Luther King's father and Malcolm X's father were both Garveyites.
That's right. That's right. That is.
So that makes sense.
Absolutely right. That's right.
That makes sense. They're both Garveyites.
It makes a lot of sense. And again, you got to think about consciousness of Garvey. You got to think about Steve Biko, who was originally the one that called the name conscious community or dealt with that. We got to go back into time, because a lot of us is. A lot of the consciousness of today is not doing that deep dive research for the elders that they standing on the shoulders of today all over America, because there was a movement, and sometimes it was done in the consciousness was in the church again. The deacons of defense, of course, was some of the conscious people that was defending and protecting their stuff with that spiritual vibration. We could call it
even in the church, Eugene Calendar in Harlem, the Reverend Wyatt Walker. The Reverend Adam Clayton Powell. I mean, all of between the church people then spilling over, and then between the conscious community, those in the metaphysical world, and so thus was founded the Freedom National Bank, the first Black bank in Harlem, then the Carver Bank, another Black bank in Harlem. So there was so many things that was done, all in the promotion of the consciousness of who we were and moving us forward in a positive way.
And Lord, that's why I don't like when these younger cats and brothers and sisters disrespect the elders, because they don't understand that 100 years from now, you might have young people disrespecting your backside because of your karma of you disrespecting elders, when these elders only work with what they have to build and present this information. And like when I had Professor Smalls, that's another person I got to get on to today's consciousness.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Professor Smalls got some history. I mean, he got some deep history.
But
when Professor Smalls said, when I asked Professor Smalls, did our elders fail? He said no. Did our elders drop the ball? He said no. We just had a formidable enemy that had big platforms, media, and all that. And they had a war, they had an army, they had something bigger than what we was doing or what we had. And we didn't drop the ball. Again, it's just a formidable enemy. But one thing they can't destroy is our spirit, because this consciousness keep on coming back.
Yeah.
It keeps on coming back no matter what. Because when you was doing all of this, I was a young child. And then growing to understand about Garvey and through reggae music and all those type of things, and through R&B music that was singing about these different things, that's what opened me up to consciousness. Because my father, of course, had a club that year that I was born in '67. He opened up a nightclub. So music and those type of music was always in my ear, whether it's reggae and R&B and soul and whatever. It was always in my ear. So, Lord,
I was thinking that the person who undermined it, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, was J. Edgar Hoover.
Yes,
born on January the 1st.
COINTELPRO, yes.
COINTELPRO of the FBI. And he would blackmail the Kennedy brothers too. He didn't
you know, Lloyd, did you ever get that book about J. Edgar Hoover's family, who was a melanated people?
I did have a book in my collection on J. Edgar Hoover, his autobiography.
They said, no, this is somebody that wrote from his family. His bloodline was from melanated.
Yeah, but I'm not surprised. Everybody comes from us.
And he hated us. He hated his own people because of that.
Well, you have they're black people that we are taught to hate ourselves, and which is unfortunate.
Right.
So when the messenger says deaf, dumb, and blind to the knowledge of self, the more I heard that, the more I knew exactly what that meant. That we are the greatest people on this planet. I ain't trying to take nothing away from anybody, but I make it clear I'm not taking anything away from ourselves.
Of course.
And that's how I roll with this.
A family, please remember to spread love to our brother Lloyd Strayhorn and what he does and how he does. Of course, he has a great app that you can find also on his website, but I have it always on I always advertise his products.
You have a crown next to your name?
Yeah. You got me. I'm cool.
Because I was going to say you should have a crown next to your name.
I check in every once. I check in every once a month, like the beginning of the month. I'll check it on it. You know what I'm saying? That's all I need. After that, I'm doing it by myself. but there you go. A star 8 is his app. Of course, you can sign up for his purchase his products on his website, Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. You can sign up for his newsletter and his courses. His website can lead you to his courses. Also, I'm working on my app because I had one before, but I'm working on my app and I haven't. I just want to make sure that. Because you told me the problems you was having. I just want to make sure I don't get caught up in those problems.
I think it was more the politics of it because of the potentials of what it can do.
Yes.
And how many people it can reach.
And we want to make sure it covers Apple and Android too. So,
yeah. Because my Star 8 app, ASTAR, is both on Android and Apple.
Yeah, because I got it on my Android.
It wasn't easy getting it up there. But
I know. I remember you telling me. And that's why I said, you told me. Yeah. So now we're here. And of course, consciousness is on Instagram. Consciousness is on Twitch. Consciousness is everywhere. Back about 15, 20 years ago, I had to know myself and people like Brother Shabazz was producing lectures and all that. Brother Shabazz was doing LIU. Matter of fact, he just brought back the LIU dynamic now. So I'm proud that he's doing it in New York. And now this new consciousness, Brother Rich is doing a phenomenal job, as you know.
Yeah, in this place now is Brother Rich, 19 Keys.
Yes.
Those are the younger generations, and they've got a whole nother mindset.
Yes, they do. And
they're in a whole nother way of communicating. Ours was more word of mouth.
Yes.
Rotary phone that was attached to the wall, so you could only go but so far.
Right.
And so things have changed in the way the communication is. So now communication is instant. All you got to do is just turn on your computer. But then again, it can be controlled easily by the powers that be to run the internet or shut it down. But in our communities, it was the word of mouth, and they will still tell you. A soda company can spend millions of dollars to promote, but they will all tell you the best advertisement is word of mouth.
I wonder if today's consciousness would survive in a word of mouth community back in those.
That's interesting. That's
I'm wondering that, because if this all shuts down, what we gonna do? How are we gonna do it? We can't be on this no more. Are we gonna go back to those things? I think we would. I think if, as long as the people like myself are still alive, or people that remembered like Brother Rich is still alive, and Sonetta doing what he's doing is still alive, I think we'll go back to gathering even more together and start really linking up and being able to either call each other or send a smoke signal or whatever we got to do, get some pigeons, and we
but you know what? It's interesting you mentioned Sinetta, because he did an interesting piece.
Yes.
He was interviewing some young brothers in the street.
Yes.
He had a portrait of Malcolm X, a portrait of Martin Luther King,
and Jesus,
and a portrait of Jesus.
White Jesus.
You know, those youngsters only remembered Jesus. and that was scary. That was scary. Seriously.
I remember he put Jesus on the floor and people was jumping over it. Think of the son that I'm trying to get him on. I told him I need him on.
That was the most powerful demonstration of how our minds and our culture has been turned around.
Yes.
They knew nothing of Malcolm, what he meant, nothing of Martin Luther King, what he went, and I think it was Garvey, but he had Garvey, but he had Jesus, and he already recognized Jesus.
Yo, the guy tried to fight Sonetta for white Jesus. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He did. I was right. I remember watching that, and Sonetta always had it popping over there on 125th Street. Still do when he gets out there, So definitely, Sonetta was a big part of what we was doing as far as promotion, especially on the streets and interviewing people on the streets. Because I know you got interviewed a few times. Myself, anytime I brought Dr. Layla Africa in town, Bobby Emmett was there, Phil Valentine, all these guys was there. Yeah. Debates started happening, all that kind of stuff was going on. So it's very, very powerful that we that there was different levels to this consciousness and what went on and how things went on. And I'm glad that you're still around to even still recollect what was going on. Now, let's go in another direction of consciousness as far as the health and the metaphysics, because you was in the classes with the Queen of Four, the John E. Moores. When Queen started setting up her health Heal Thyself Center, when she was with Phil, Dr. Valentine, and all that, then Baba Heru, what was that like? Because I know you went over there and did your thing also. So what was that like back in the day?
Well, what happens is when I came to WBLS and WLIB in September of 1981,
right,
that's when I used my platform as a metaphysician to bring all of those people. That's when Queen of Four and Phil Valentine were together. I brought them on as a couple. Ken Dickerson, all of the people that was connected with the metaphysical realm, I brought on that show. And then I remember I brought Dr. Ben Yekinen on that talked about how he looked at the astrological symbols was in the wall of Egypt. So people would understand that astrology and numerology are African sciences.
And hold on, you mentioned somebody's name. I want to show his book, Ken Dickerson. If you don't have this book, How to Win Gains a Chance, he's no longer with us in this realm. But this book here, man, please, family, please. Go ahead, Lloyd.
And it shows you how faith would have it, because in 1981, well, actually it was in 1987, one of my students, Terrence Warner, that I gave credit to in my book, he was dating a publisher of Valentine books. And the woman that she had hired to write this numerology book was giving him a hard way to go. And he says, well, why don't you get my teacher? She called me, the rest is history. When I got my book published, and she asked me, there were two people I recommended, Queen of Four, which became her best-selling book to this day. Okay, Sacred Woman. All right.
Sacred Woman.
That's
Sacred
right.
Woman. That's
Sacred
right.
Woman and Ken Dickerson's.
And Ken Dickerson. I got both of their books.
So that's how those books got published. But I mean, it's, I say it now only because of the historical perspective, but I won't say, well, Queenie, because of me, I got your book published. It's not that. No. Because don't forget, we came out of a collective where we shared and act as a oneness, a sense of unity.
Exactly. Exactly. And that was very important because, again, those times, when you mesh it with the holistic community, this whole consciousness, because there's a consciousness there also.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta remember that even when you was doing astro-numerology, you was also helping people go to Queen of Four for health issues. If you've seen that in their chart and in their numbers, we all helped each other. You're saying we're not trying to learn everything and take all the money or we shared, stay in our lane and shared with each other.
Yeah.
That's what I respected about y'all back in the day.
Yeah. And we haven't lost it. We've just sort of forgot, or it has been made dormant. Mm-hmm. But these things are here, and maybe a show like this will kind of reawaken the consciousness of people. So although we don't have it back before the cell phones and everything, I'm in August, I'm going to do, me and another sister named Melinda or Queen B, we're going to do an extensive thing on Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. Because when Michael Jackson came along, this was before the internet and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And he had about 4.3 billion people around the world, even to this day. So although he died in 2009, even to this day, he is still imitated around the world. He has broken all the records around the world. I mean, and yet they tried to denigrate him. Why? Because he outfoxed Sony Records and owned the label. He owned the catalogs of the Beatles, Little Richard, Eminem. I mean, all of these things. And in fact, he gave Little Richard his own catalogs. Right. And for those that don't understand, because even Taylor Swift just had a victory because she now got all her catalogs from the record companies. And so and the music has changed very much. Right. And it's all designed with this music that we have to now, and in fact, it's good business for the private prison system.
Right. That's right.
Music system.
And you, Lloyd, you being a musician yourself, interesting, because the consciousness did change over, because we were singing a lot of love songs back in the day, a lot of conscious songs because of what was going on through Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and all of Darby and all of that stuff. What do you see? How can the music and consciousness be healed in this day and time? What would you think needs to be poured into the new artists that are coming and growing up now?
The new artists, and there's still probably some artists with an old school mindset.
Right. Yes. I hear October London. You ever heard October London?
No.
He sounds like Marvin Gaye. When I say the man sounds like Marvin Gaye, he sounds like Marvin Gaye. He's singing like Marvin Gaye too.
Yeah, but the new music is not encouraged like that. It's encouraged to call out women in disrespectful fashions. Right. Us to denigrate each other as men. And so notice how now in the days of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you didn't see none of these musicians being killed in a corner or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Now there's hip hop music come along, and even then it was cool, because then you had Professor Griff, who would have a consciousness, other groups of that nature. And so, but they were about unity, you know what I'm saying? But nowadays it's like none of that. And it's all about the disrespect of women, the disrespect of the culture. And it shows. And what it has simply done is help fill the prison systems of this country. Right.
Let me let people know, anybody that want to cam up or call up briefly, I'll take 2 or 3 callers or 2 or 3 people that want to cam up. If you want to cam up or call, the link is in the chat right now, or you can call. That's 718-210-8853. That's 718-210-8853. If you have a question for Lloyd, not about numbers, please do not.
Hold on, Simon. What is cam up? You introduced another thing?
No, it's something that you got too. It's just that I'm inviting people, throwing it in the chat so they can come up and cam up on the camera if they want to come up and talk to you.
Really? Directly. So you can see their face too?
Yeah, you got this. You got it too.
You got this feature also?
Yeah, all it said, go to your invite when it's invite and just copy and paste that camera, then put it in your chat, and then that people can
Okay, you got to show me. See, you make it so easy. Yeah, just do this.
So like Landon Price said, October London is a new generation on death row. Yeah, Snoop doing a 360, which is needed. Snoop Dogg is turning it into life row instead of death row. And
I like that. I like that.
Which makes more sense. Why? Unless we can call death from a tarot perspective, transformation, instead of it just being death. Because we know the symbolism of death in tarot, but him calling it death row and now doing a 360 and putting more conscious type, clear, still bouncy music, but some October London, who was born October 17th, is an old soul right there. All I know, he's old soul when I heard him sing. So
but essentially they would call it Death Row Records because in prison there's death row, and everybody knows when you're on death row what that means.
Exactly.
You know that's the last time you going somewhere eventually.
Yeah, Sugar's in prison, particularly on death row. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
He's right now. So anybody want to call in? The phone lines is open, 718-210-8853. That's 718-210-8853. That's 888-55-8853 is 8 also. So it's 8853. So you know what it is. And if you want to cam up, it's up to you. If not, look, I can end this in a few minutes. I just want to make sure Lloyd got all that he got. Lloyd, you know, with all the things that you've gone through with people, and as far as in this consciousness and people not understanding what you were doing and then decide to figure out that they're going to do something with you, what was some of the most interesting skeptics that you ran into in the metaphysical world? Who were some of the most interesting skeptics that you ran into, and then they changed their mind?
Well, I'm trying to think because there were quite a few, because
numerous, right? One
came out that Bible experience.
Yes,
and see in the Bible anything like metaphysics and that, you know what I'm saying. So you know you're gonna burn and you know where, okay? So that was about a boatload, you know.
Yes,
but I found that the skeptics was my best meat. Because they really made me stay on my game.
Exactly. They make you stay on your game.
And there were 3 religious groups that had challenged what I do. And I shall name them. Okay.
Yeah.
Born again Christians.
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witness. 7-day Adventists. And when I say to them, well, if you go to the Bible, because a lot of them didn't know I went to seminary school.
Oh, that's right.
And I would tell them that they go to the Old Testament, the fourth book. The fourth book is called the Book of Numbers. Where God instructs Moses on the 2nd day of the 2nd month to name the army by their poll. And as you go toward the closing part of the Book of Numbers,
right,
you'll find that each of the 12 tribes of Israel is given their names in a numerical sequence.
Yes.
Okay. And then I would say to them, name me a war since Cain killed Abel in the Bible symbolically that's been fought in the name of a zodiac sign. Name me a war for the name of Aquarius. Name me a war for the name of Leo. Name me a war for the name of the number 1 or the number 7. And then they got nothing to get upset with me. Okay? But I'm trying to use, and see, the beauty of being born in Harlem with the skepticism is you had to use some common sense. We're a product of New York City. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I found in my studies, that the most skeptics were either connected to the 5 or the 3.
That's interesting.
That's what I found out, you know. And then when you break down the word skepticism, it adds up. A skeptic, it adds up to a 3 in one aspect. So I'm like, man, wait a minute. Then you got.
I really admire you because you've taken your numerology skills to a whole nother level.
You know,
I mean, seriously. I'm talking
and
about.
Some people don't.
You, buddy.
Some people don't even understand, and then people get angry. You know, you do numerology horribly. One lady said I did it horribly. I looked at her and said, because you don't understand what I'm doing with the words from my perspective. I mean, it's my perspective. It's what I connected with.
Yeah. And see, they don't understand that words mean everything, and each letter has a frequency that it emanates.
You know,
and you have a way of breaking it down that makes it. I mean, but you have people that, although it could be right in their face, their minds are closed, their eyes are closed. So what you gonna do?
Yeah, I know, but Lloyd, since nobody called in, I'm not going to keep you. I just want to make sure that people get to show you love again. Let me put your stuff up there. Hold on one
Well, this is
second.
much appreciated, Simon.
I'm not gonna, hour is good enough, man. If they not going to talk, because I could keep it on if people was that, but not.
Yeah.
I told them, don't come on here asking about numbers. We ain't doing that. Not tonight. You know me, Lloyd.
Well, that's why you ain't get no call.
That's right. They want to hear numbers. I said, no, don't disrespect my channel.
Yeah,
Not do that.
yeah.
I want y'all to ask
Well,
them
one
about
thing it tells me about your viewers, they respect your
that.
instructions.
They respect in the platform, and I'm glad. Just like it's called King Simon Presents Only Quality People, I have quality viewers. I really have no trolls like that. If trolls come up, I tell trolling, Lloyd, adds up to a number 44, and I know four could be a mental number.
No, it could be. It is
It
a
is.
mental number.
Okay. So somebody's actually calling in. Let me check on them. Please turn down any apparatus that you're calling from, any apparatus that you're listening to, and talk to me over the phone. Who am I speaking with?
Peace. This is Queen B. So I'm calling in to show love to Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am.
Queen TV. Yeah, that's a girl.
Just want to call in and show some love and thank Lloyd for everything that he's done.
Thank you.
All the doors that he's opened up for everyone. So
right.
Just checking in.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Queen B. All right. Thank you very much.
You need to have her on your show. She is an amazing numerologist. She reminds me of you. She's got a style that's very detailed.
Right. Somebody came in. Look what the people said. What's the power of finding one's purpose? I told people don't ask about no numbers.
Well,
but
I will say this.
Go ahead.
The power of finding one's purpose means everything. All of us here are born for a reason, a season, and a time to be.
That's right.
It's just a matter of finding what that direction is, that Simon and I know, which is from the month, the day, and the year you're born, plus other factors too. It is like knowing whether you take an Amtrak North or Amtrak South or Amtrak East or West, but it gives you a sense of a direction of how you're going to do things. And it makes all the difference in the world too. So it's great power, and numbers are everything. And you can't do without numbers. If numbers disappeared, how are you going to call somebody? How are you going to use fiat currency as a medium of exchange and all the other things that we take so much for granted, unfortunately?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lloyd, for that. And I know people like to come in and just throw things out there, but let me share something with them real quick, so people know. you know me, Lloyd. You know how I get down, right?
I know you do. Listen, you're number one, buddy. So listen, don't mess with you.
So if you look at the number adding up to the word purpose, let me share something with y'all real quick.
Please do. Yeah, school them, brother. School them.
Why it's so important that even when you say the word purpose, I'm going to share something with y'all right now. Why even if you say the word purpose, why it's important. Here I'm going to share my screen, and this is the major screen that I'm going to put up there, and you probably can't see it the way I want you to see it. But there it is. Now look at here. You see the word purpose up there? In the Pythagorean, it adds up to a master number 11. That is the spiritual runway that you are taking on your purpose. That means you are supposed to connect to your spiritual, intuitive side and bring it to fruition when it deals with that 11. And because the word purpose adds up to 39, which equals a 12, which is a 3, 3 deals with expressing yourself through your purpose. Expressing your ideas and your thoughts through your purpose. That is why purpose adds up to a 3 and purpose adds up to 38, which is the number 11 in the Pythagorean. I'm not going to go any deeper than that. That's it.
But Simon, you know what? That's one of the things that makes you unique. You're the only person I know that will take a word and analyze both that one word in both languages. And yet it all makes sense. You're very good with the rap or whatever. It all makes sense.
That's why, Lloyd, I stress that I'm teaching on words only because we use words more than we use our name and our birthday every day. We may remember our name and birthday. We might say hi to somebody every day, but we talk more
all
languages
day long.
all day long. We're not saying Lloyd.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
we're
that
saying
gets me boring.
big up to legendary Topcats. Big up to legendary Topcats. He's gonna be climbing the mountain with us over there. Topcats, you were supposed to be on my show. You didn't send me a picture. You didn't send me nothing. I don't know what happened with you, bro. But thank you very much for the donation, legendary Topcats. Big up to all. He wrote a new book too. Brothers born March 22nd. He wrote a new book called We Not Black, We're Indian. I forgot what the name of the book. What's the name of the book, Topcats, so people can get it? Just tell me the name of the book and I'll put it up in the chat here. Legendary Topcats, born March the 22nd, the same day as Asir the Duke of Tears. Big up to both of them because they're very good students and people that are willing to study. The only thing I don't agree with is arguing, my brother. I don't like the arguments and the debates. But he said, I'm ready, OG, whenever you're ready. Yo, I was supposed to do it on the 11th. I was supposed
That's the number.
Yeah, I wanted to do it on the 11th, but we're going to try to, after the mountain climb, we're going to do it because he's supposed to be climbing up the mountain with us with Brother Rich. Got a big thing. I want you to see this commercial. Don't go nowhere, family. I want Lloyd to see this commercial that Brother Mo produced, and I want you to check out what this mountain climb is all about. Check this out.
Yeah. We here now, look around. Stone Mountain. Ancestors in the wind. It's the gathering. What more can they say? Yeah. We rise through the smoke, step on ancient stone, blood in the roots, but we claim this throne. Drums in the distance, voices in the air, every shade, every tribe, yeah, we all right here. From the crabs in the bucket to the peak we climb, truth in the circle, can't block the shine. Whitewash pages, we rewrite those lines at the top of the mountain, we redefine. Yo, Masons can't fake this, no fear factor. Unified frequency, we the real reactors. Talk to the elders, wisdom came faster. Now the youth carry torch, light moves past you. We all gather now, let the healing begin. Ancestors smile while the flags unfurl. Look, root races met at the peak today. Polarian, Hyperbarian paved the way. Atlantean echoes through the stones we lay. Now crystalline visions in the sun rays spring.
Yeah, that's the video.
Hey, Simon.
It wasn't me. It was done by this brother named Mo, one of my customers, one of my clients, and also one of the people that participate.
He put a nice AI touch to that.
He put a nice, yeah. He should have put my man, legendary Topcat, with his Indian crown on. But his book is called. The book is called I'm Not Black, I'm Indian, and American Bloodlines of the God and Civilization of Amazon. You know what's so interesting? Because my aunt, and it's interesting because my aunt used to tell us about the Arawak in Jamaica and the Tainos and the Maroons. I went and got this book, Lloyd. Man, I got so much history out of this Arawak book. And it's such a thin little book, but so much history about the indigenous people of South America that was in Jamaica. I got so much history out of that, and I got another book on the Maroons, man. Oh my goodness, the wars. Even when the Maroons and the Arawak intermarried and intermingled, they had to fight against the British like crazy and the Spanish like crazy. I was like my bedtime story last night. I'm like, what the hell? And you remember how John Henry Clark used to take us there when he spoke about stories?
Yeah,
he'll make you imagine that you were there.
Yeah.
You can listen to
an excellent narrative.
Very good, man. So, yo, I'm telling you, man, I want to, I hope to see you up there. I know Topcat is going to be over there at the mountain too. So I can't wait to see you out there. Make sure you got my books, sir. Make sure you got my books. I am reading. I'm studying, So big up to Topcats in the building. Can you check the other question I wrote in the chat? I don't know what you said in the chat, sir. Did you put a donation behind it? I don't know what question you're talking about. Can you explain, Lloyd, why soft-spoken people are like yourself and MJ are such powerful individuals? Can you explain that, Lloyd? Why soft-spoken people are like yourself?
To me, when you're powerful, you don't have to make a lot of noise. The presence speaks for itself.
Right. That's right. Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson spoke through his music.
He says, "I'm not a fighter. I'm a
I'm
lover.
a lover. Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was born the 29th of August.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
master number
Under
11
a feminine sign with a feminine number.
with a feminine number. That's
But
right.
not
And
feminine at all, because he kicked Tupac's butt when he messed with
yeah, exactly.
Quincy Jones's daughter.
And I remember Michael Jai White saying, and again, thanks again, Topcast, for the donation. I remember Michael Jai White saying, who was born November 10th, like Tommy Davidson and all that. I remember Michael Jai White saying, don't mess with short people. He said short people are the dangerous people. People that was like 5, 6, and 5, 7. That's what he was saying. He said, don't mess with short people. Short people.
You know, that's interesting, because Napoleon was very short.
Oh, yes, he was.
very short.
Yes, he was.
Mussolini was very short.
Yes,
they were all terrorists.
Yes, it was. I'm very short, but I can be a terrorist.
Me too. We about the same height, but we don't go to sleep. That's all.
Well, we know what we gotta do because you know what happened. We have to think about what we gotta do, so we have to calculate things. Especially when you're dealing with bigger dudes. I have to calculate.
Fighters, we fight totally different.
Exactly.
More strategically.
Especially when you took Aikido or you take a jiu-jitsu, we had to think strategic. And we wasn't taking, in New York, we was taking stand-up jiu-jitsu. We wasn't taking ground jiu-jitsu. Matter of fact, we want to knock you to the ground, but we knew how to get on the ground with you if we had to. We knew how to, the Sanukas, we learned how to get on the ground with the person also, get down to their level if we have to, but we'd rather stand up and take you down to the ground real quick and subdue you. But big up to Soke Little.
And the most powerful men in the martial arts were also the most quiet men too.
But yes, they were.
You never, only if you were in the circle like a Moses Powell or this person or that person, you knew their reputation.
Yeah, Master Duncan was short. Master Duncan.
That's what I'm saying. But you would never know who they were until you messed with them.
You know, and when Master Duncan spoke, you would listen because he was about to drop some wisdom on you. Very clear. And he spoke like this: Simon, you know, this is what we have to do. And this is how he.
And Brother Musawir, who passed away.
Musawir Abdul.
That was my mentor.
He was Aquarius too.
Yes. February 4th.
February 4th or 13th, because he told me either the 13th or the 4th. Was it 13th?
I think he could be the 13th, but I know he's an Aquarius 4.
No, he was a 4.
And I would go to him on Sundays for my sessions and whatnot.
Yes, he was, oh man, devastating foul. We was all together at the Masters of the Martial Arts with Wesley Snipes. And he was one of your clients, Wesley.
Wesley Snipes is my client, yes.
That's right.
And he was born July 31st or 4th.
Yes, he was. Lloyd, I'm not going to keep you.
I forget about all this, Simon. See?
Family, we had the great Lloyd Strayhorn here for our today's consciousness in the conscious community, man. And he gave us some history, man. We went there, and I'm glad, especially on radio, and especially with the owners of radio back in New York days in Harlem. Man, this is very important. This was very important, and this is for the record books, my brother Lloyd.
I enjoyed this, Simon. I got to get a copy of this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you, man. Don't worry, brother. I got you. But I'm gonna be clipping it up. I'm gonna put some clips out, and I know people are gonna love the clips. And please, family, remember to support brother Lloyd Strayhorn, Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. Y'all know I advertise this every time I come up. World-renowned Astro-Numerologist and palmist. He does that too. You can also.
I'm going to be giving a palmistry course on July 29th. I'm going to be announcing it on my show soon.
Okay, good. It's not on Udemy already? I thought you had one on Udemy already.
No, not Udemy. This is private, where I teach privately. And it's all your fault because you were the one that got me to do my first PowerPoint on palmistry at Nicholas, Brooklyn.
That's right. Hey, we got to help each other out, brother. Got to help each other out.
I say.
Again, sign up for his newsletter. Go to his download his Lloyd Strayhorn app, a star 8, ASTAR 8, a star 8. Support our brother Lloyd at every cost. He's one of our jewels, our diamonds. Like in the nation, we used to call him the Diamond Squad. He's one of our diamonds in our community, man. I know he don't like to hear all those things, but he knows me. I love him.
My attitude is I'm just Lloyd. I like it that way.
The Diamond Squad, brother. You part of the Diamond Squad.
Thanks, son.
Love you much, man. Thank you very much,
buddy.
brother.
Have a blessed day.
Take
care, man. Thank you so much, Simon.
All right, brother. Love you, man.
Okay. Love you, buddy.
All right. That's our brother Lloyd Strayhorn. Let's give him a round of applause. Let's give Lloyd a round of applause. Tell y'all something about Lloyd Strayhorn, man. One time him and I did something at we did something in New Orleans. NOLA did a whole workshop in NOLA. 2 days. Big up to Jackie Levine, who was the producer of that. I'll be having her in my show either in July or April. She's the Empress of Numerology. That's what she is coined herself now, the Empress of Numerology. And hey, do it. Take it all. We was at a thing, and Lloyd walked off for a second, and I didn't know where he walked to. And he went over there to buy something from somewhere else. And I swear to y'all, family, I took posts like I was taking posts for Dr. Khalid or Minister Farrakhan. I don't want nothing to happen to that elder. Not on my watch, at least. You know, and I know he doesn't go looking for trouble, and he's never been a troublemaker online. But just like Dr. Khalid, I would have taken a bullet or killed for Dr. Khalid, or taken a bullet or killed for Minister Farrakhan in the nation, or taken a bullet for Imam Isa, who we called Dr. York back in 1980s. I would have killed or taken a bullet for that man. I would still do the same thing for Lloyd Strayhorn to this day. That's how deep it is. Because he helped to transform me into the numerovator that I am, the numerologist that I am, you know, to this day. You know, starting in 1989, I'm telling you, that was it. That was the catalyst for me to continue on my studies of numbers, from 5% Nation to the Nation of Islam, and to the Ansars, who was teaching Kabbalah and Abjad. I'm tearing up because, yes, I'm that person when it comes to people like him. You know, I'm walking security minded all the time, watching my back and his back. You know, although I know he know how to defend himself. He trained martial arts back in his day too. But I know that's how important an elder like him is in our community. Phil Valentine, if I'm walking with Phil, I'm watching his back. Ashwa Kwesi, when I'm in his presence, I'm watching him and his wife's back, Dr. Phil and his wife's back. That's how we carry ourselves as soldiers, but also warriors, you know, in protection of our elders. Because when an elder transitions, their whole library is burnt. It's like a library just being burnt down, or a library falling down when an elder transitions. So you got to protect those libraries. You got to protect those collections, those elders, man. That's real talk from my point of view. I don't care what anybody else say. I don't care what anybody else say. Thank you very much, man, for showing the love. Appreciate both of y'all books, and how has this 9 year been treating both of you. Well, you know, 9 years have been treating me. It's been a rough time going through it because I'm in a 3 personal year. But if I let things get on my nerve, it can go another route. And I had to be able to. So I had to stay jovial. I had to stay laughing. I have to watch comedy, things that makes me feel good. But I know May, which is one of my challenge months, was one of my challenge months and one of my challenging times in my life. Again, in my 58 years, I'm about to go into another so-called Saturn return next year. So I'm paying attention to all of the cycles, but yet staying optimistic. Lloyd, I don't know. Lloyd right now, what year cycle Lloyd would be in right now? He's born February the 16th. He would be in a 9 personal year. So Lloyd has been very creative with his app and everything since last year going into this year. Lloyd has been very good. He's been very busy, put it like that, especially because he's been doing a lot of things from last year, his money cycle, into this year. But I know y'all wish he would have said it himself, but I can tell by his number frequency and the busyness that he's under all the time. Lloyd is traveling, he's producing, so he's doing what his mathematics is telling him to do as far as his personal year cycle. 9 is not so much of a dangerous year on the negative, but on the positive, 9 is about service to humanity. So anything that you do, no matter what number you're connected to, always take care of humanity. Take care of avoiding arguments and contention with people and getting into any strifes and all that stuff. Avoid accidents. Drive carefully in a 9 personal year. Communicate clearly with people so you don't go down the road of getting into any argument. Dot all I's and cross every T when you communicate with people. So that's what 9 overall is. And next year is going to be a number 1 personal year, a number 1 universal year, because remember, when you add 20 plus 26, that adds up to a number 46, which is a 10, which is a 1. So we're going to go into a new beginning cycle. New beginning could be both positive and negative, but you got to keep your mind right. Whatever going on externally in this community, in this world, always keep your mind at a higher vibratory level. Strive to keep it. Strive to take on all the armors, anything that helps you. Anything that helps you. Keep your mind from diving down into the depth of depression and anything else. You got to leave those people, places, and things alone. Television shows that might be pulling you down. And if you're not willing to balance it out with some comedy or things that will impress upon you to be at a higher level of consciousness, that's why I come on here and talk my talk and do my motivation, my numerovation on sometimes every other day. Last month and the month before was every day, but this month has been every other day. And then I'll put up the clips, and then I'm going to go to Instagram and then put up the YouTube channel. So look out for my Instagram. I'll be doing that. But thank you for the donation, Zenu, King Zemu. Thank you, Zenu. Make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, because next month, my number 1 personal month, because right now I'm in my 9 personal month, which is one of my good numbers. Number 1 personal month, which is one of my good numbers. Go to Lloyd Strayhorn's app to find out your personal numbers right now. If you want to go to Lloyd Strayhorn's app, his app is right here on the bottom of the screen, right here, the bottom of the flyer. Lloyd Strayhorn's app is called A Star 8. Pay for the subscription and join in so you can get what your personal month is. He breaks it. He gives a good breakdown of each month, a good synopsis of each month for you. When you do a session with us, I get a little bit more deeper, but I know he also get a little bit more deeper from his perspective. So when you book a session with Lloyd or you book a session with myself, remember this month I have a discount going on, $80 off for the 30-minute session and $50 off for the 60-minute session. So take advantage of this for this month, the Black Music Month or Black Mental Health, Men's Mental Health Month. Please take advantage of this. Black Music Month this month. So take advantage of this. All right. So on that note, let me get on out of here. Thank y'all very much for watching today's Consciousness in the Conscious Community. We had our guest, Lloyd Strayhorn. Oh, we're going to have some great ones coming up. So look out for that. And I can't wait to see y'all in New York. If y'all going to be in New York, make sure y'all support this. We're going to be in New York. Get your tickets right now. If you want to vend, make sure you contact our brother Shabazz. And opening up for me will be Paris Williams. That's beautiful Paris right there. She's going to be opening up for me in New York for the first time. She's going to be her first time speaking. It's going to be first time speaking at LIU for me. First time for her speaking at LIU. Wanted to bring some of the feminine energy in there. That's why I'm supporting my sister at all costs. And family, big up to Abundance Child. Make sure you support her on her radio show. That's WJVSradio.com every Thursday with her husband, John Carr. And on the 21st, we have Dr. Africa's wife returning to New York City for the first time since Dr. Africa transitioned. Boom. Make sure you contact that number. It's a free event, but donations are accepted. It's going to be an all-day health and wealth conference. Make sure you support her and support my son doing some great work in the music business and in the studio business also. Enough love to him. Get all my books on Amazon. Go to Udemy if you want to take my Udemy course. And the next installment on my Patreon page, King Simon Production, is Your Name is Your Theme Song. It is the instrument you are playing in the orchestra of life. That was said by Dr. Juno Jordan, also a numerologist and the daughter of Dr. Julia Seaton. So yes, join my Patreon. It's on the bottom there, Patreon page, patreon.com/King Simon. That installment will be going up on July the 10th. So look out for that on Patreon. Family, thank you very much. I want to thank Lloyd again and thank all of you for coming through. Have a great day, afternoon, or evening. I love you because I love me. Take care, be safe, and be great. Today's consciousness, today's consciousness, today's consciousness. What happened and how can we change it? From the pristine position that we held in today's consciousness, here's a new show just for you every Tuesday called Today's Consciousness. Be there and enjoy all the great special guest stars that will be passing through on a new show called Today's Consciousness. Today's Consciousness. Today's Consciousness. Are you ready to address all the things that are going on? And how can we heal today's consciousness? Today's consciousness. Today's consciousness. Right here on KSP TV. Today's consciousness. What happened and how can we change it? It's about guiding people. The only way you can make the world better is if you make the people better. It's about showing them the light of hope in themselves and their family. Everything in this universe is all about synchronicity.
Numbers are simple, people are complicated. Numerovision from the king, learn the foundation from the king. Nana Pushe, 1 + 1 is 2. Be precise. 3 + 2 is 5. Guard your mind. Me plus you is mathematician. Learn from V1 numerovator. Numbers are simple, people are complicated. Me innovation from a king, me foundation from the king. Nana Pushe, numbers are simple, no people are complicated. Numerovision from a king, the foundation from the king.
No, it's not about reading, it's about guiding. I don't do readings, I do consultations because you should know yourself. As good as the back of your hand, you should know yourself. I want everyone out there to be clear that this is to serve you like a GPS serves you. Remember, each of us has guaranteed ourselves success. Be that magi, family. Be that magician. Be that numerovational motivated force.
Yeah. We here now, look around. Stone Mountain. Ancestors in the wind. It's the gathering. What more can they say? Yeah. We rise through the smoke, step on ancient stone, blood in the roots, but we claim this throne. Drums in the distance, voices in the air, every shade, every tribe, yeah, we all right here. From the crabs in the bucket to the peak we climb, truth in the circle, can't block the shine. Whitewash pages, we rewrite those lines at the top of the mountain, we redefine. Yo, Masons can't fake this, no fear factor. Unified frequency, we the real reactors. Talk to the elders, wisdom came faster. Now the youth carry torch, light moves past you.
We all gather now, let the healing begin. Ancestors smile while the flags unfurl.
Look, root races met at the peak today. Polarian, Hyperbarian paved the way. Atlantean echoes through the stones we lay. Now crystalline visions in the sun ray spray.
So remember, our job as studiers of these metaphysical, esoteric knowledge is to help enhance
better. I, as a numerologer, using the numbers, or quote-unquote numerals, as motivation to get people to understand why they need to activate their numbers to be their very best self and maximize it. Because the numerals hold a frequency. And if you're willing to turn up that frequency, then that frequency can help to guide you and navigate you to a higher height that will allow you to spiral to be your best self. We must remember that.